Hello, good morning or good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's orientation live session. I would just like to go over some logistics with you. You are able to see and hear us, however, we cannot see or hear you. You can ask questions in the comment box that is on the right side of your screen. If you look in the top right corner, you'll see a chat box with a question mark, and that is where you can post your questions. The comment box will be opened towards the end of our presentation. And of course, we will answer those questions. Closed captioning is also available, so if you are in need of that, please take advantage of that service. Look for a button that has CC, that will be towards the bottom right of your screen. Let's get into it. Next slide, please. So if you are joining us today, it is because you wanted to get some information about how to adjust to life at UT Dallas. Now, for some students who might be joining us remotely or virtually, don't think that this topic doesn't apply to you, because if you are a person that is living outside of the United States and you have to attend classes that are being held within the United States or within Texas, then yes, this information is absolutely helpful to you, because now you will be interacting with individuals from a different culture and a different environment. So this information will be important. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about some things that we think will be helpful to you to help you adjust. But before we can figure out how to adjust to life at UT Dallas, in Texas, in the United States, we first have to understand culture shock. As you can see there, culture shock is the reaction of living in a different culture, which is different, which has different ideas and norms that is different from yours. So basically, when you grow up in a certain culture, the norms that you have, the mores that you have, the habits and practices that you have are typically considered normal behavior for you, right? And then when you are introduced into another culture, another environment, then things can seem a little strange. And so we have to maybe understand why people are doing things the way that they do. But before we can get to the understanding of why, let us talk about the three stages of culture shock, which are honeymoon, annoyance, and adaptation. Next slide, please. So the first stage, which is the honeymoon stage, as you can see here by this picture, with a cute little heart on there, shows a lot of things that people typically love about living here in Dallas, Texas. There's a picture of the skyline that is there, delicious food, of course. We are known for our delicious and tasty food here in Dallas. A lot of Texas culture. You might see cowboys on horses if you go to the area to see them. And there are really great and wonderful things about living in Dallas. So that is the first stage of culture shock, right? The first stage is you're just so in love. You want to get to know people, you want to get to know more Americans, and you want to interact, and you're just so open and excited. But let's talk about the second stage of culture shock. Next slide, please.
So, the second stage of culture shock is called annoyance. This is a time when you'll have enough of America and its people. You will get to a point where you cannot stand Americans. And you'll think to yourself, why does everyone do everything backwards here? Nothing here is normal. Ugh, I just want to go back home. I can easily name 10 things that Americans do differently than the rest of the world. Next slide, please. Some things in particular will become very frustrating to you, even if you're not in the US. For instance, the dating system is completely backwards in America. The whole world knows that we write the date starting with the day and then the month. But in America, you start with the month and then the day. So if you're born on March the 9th, please do not write 0903 because then you'll be born on September the 3rd. Or even the measurement system in America. Americans are the only ones who insist on measuring things by feet and inches and pounds, while the rest of the world knows the metric system is the best. And you'll also probably experience a lot of this in your virtual classes, where there'll be like American slang that you don't typically understand. Teachers may use some vocabulary that's very specific to Texas and talk about things that may not be too familiar with you. But that's totally okay. We're all experiencing this. And America is such a diverse nation where my brother lives in California and there are things he says, and I'm left there like, I have no idea what it means. So this is something that's totally normal, whether or not you live in America. Next slide, please. So as you continue to stay here, you may get the impression that that Americans are rude, hypocritical, obnoxious, insincere, superficial, and that's just to mention a few. You must often remember that this is just your perception of the culture. American culture and culture around the world is totally different. Americans want to stand out in a crowd. Individualism is so important here. And that might be different from your culture where it might be more important not to draw attention to yourself. This doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with Americans. It's just that we come from different backgrounds and we all have to accommodate each other and just understand that we've got very different upbringings and very different backgrounds. Next slide, please. So, an important thing to remember is that we will all experience culture shock at some point in our life. So, it's better for you to be prepared. So, I was trying to give a few tips, and some of the things I can tell you that you can do to like help you manage your culture shock is remind yourself of your home country. Cook some food from home. McDonald's and Whataburger will be very exciting the first couple of weeks, but you'll get to a point where you just want that nice home cooked meal. So whip up a little something and enjoy something that reminds you of home. Also, hang up some pictures that remind you of the people you love and the places that you care about. So it's very important, like for me, I have pictures of my family on my wall and just like the skyline from back home. And it always makes me feel like I've got a little piece of where I come from in my new space. And also, don't forget to share your culture with those who are around you. Participate in virtual events and just get to meet people and share your experiences with them. There's so much that we can learn from one another, and it'll feel amazing being able to tell someone about you and where you come from. Next slide, please. You should also get to know some American friends. Join Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and even organizations. All our organizations have Instagram pages and Facebook pages. So follow them if you're interested in their organization and just get to interact with the organization leaders and the members themselves. Don't isolate yourself from other cultures. Get to know other people. As I said before, there's always so much to learn from other people. And we live in a country and we're in a school where there's a wealth of information and a wealth of cultures. So just put yourself out there. You will honestly love the experience. And this might also be a little hard to do when you're sitting in a virtual class with other students. But you can still be in contact with other classmates on Microsoft Teams, on GroupMe's. We have so many platforms where you can interact with people. So don't hold yourself back. Just we all want to know each other. And that first hello is typically the hardest. After that, it gets a little easier. And also don't forget to ask for help when you need it. Don't feel like you're gonna look some type of way because you don't know something. Just be very open to asking for help. Americans are very big on helping people and making sure that everyone feels included. So just the ball's in your court, just make sure you ask for that help. Next slide, please. So Eventually, you'll get to phase three. I get Americans and America. And you'll start adapting to the American culture. So, what thing that it means is that you are not turning into an American. You are still like from wherever you're from. But it means that you finally understand why Americans do the things they do and how American systems work. For instance, some things are very important to Americans, and it might not be the case in some of our countries. I, for instance, have to wear deodorant every single day, and I carry around breath mints with me. And that's because American culture is very big on being clean and presentable and well groomed. So you just start getting adapted to it, and it feels so part of my everyday life now, where these are things I just typically have with me. During the pandemic, I also always have a bottle of sanitizer with me. It just and a mask. It just becomes a part of you and your everyday activities. And you'll learn that some of these little things that Americans do, once you start adapting them, you'll feel a lot more included and part of the environment and the culture that you're now in. Next slide, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Flower. That was very helpful information for our listeners. So, just to know that even if you are studying with us remotely or virtually, you absolutely can experience culture shock. Culture shock is not limited to in person interactions, to face interactions. They absolutely can be experienced virtually. So, we just wanted to give you some information that could hopefully help you understand if you start feeling certain ways, right? If you feel that initial shock, if you feel like you might be getting annoyed with certain differences that exist with American culture and your home culture, and then you actually start to say, okay, I think I get what is happening here. So hopefully this information will be helpful to you. Now, let us get more specific and let's talk more about the UT Dallas campus and its traditions. Now, you might see the word comets being used, whether it be on the UT Dallas website or in advertisements for events, etc. So, UT Dallas members are called comets. Okay, so, and this includes students, staff, and faculty members. Also, the colors for our school, because typically schools have their logo and they have their colors. So the colors that we use here at UT Dallas are orange and green. And if you notice, if you can see in the video, I am wearing a green polo, and that is because it's one of our colors that we wear. UT Dallas also has a traditions page. If you check out their traditions webpage, and the link to that webpage is on screen at the moment, it is utdallas.edu/student-affairs/traditions. And you can learn so much more about all the traditions that are here at UT Dallas. We have traditional events that we do, ceremonies, and other things that make UT Dallas special. And I hope when you do go to visit this link, you will notice the diversity that is here at UT Dallas. That is one of the things that we're very proud of. It is diverse in many ways, including the cultural diversity that we have here. So please take a look at this website to get more of an idea of who we are, and you will see that the cultural diversity that we have here is something that has been around for a long time. We are not new to this, so please take a look at it to get more of an idea of who we are. Next slide, please. Okay, comets. I'm sure I can go ahead and call you comets now, right? Because we just learned the word comets. Okay, comets. So now we're going to talk about our mascot. Now, what is a mascot? Now, it's very typical for American universities and colleges to have a thing called a mascot. And You may not know this, but I'm originally from the very small island of Jamaica, and it's not typical for us to have mascots at our universities and colleges, but it is very an American thing. And usually the mascot is a character, a fictional character, right, that represents the university. And at UT Dallas, our mascot is called T-Mock. And if you notice, TMOC is the word comet spelled backward, right? So you are a comet, and TMOC, well, TMOC is a TMOC. I guess technically TMOC is a comet as well, so much that it's in his name and it's reversed. But TMOC is our mascot, and you see his picture right there on the screen. Just really a friendly TMOC, very lively. Is also a good dancer if you follow on Instagram and see some of the things that T-Mock does. But T-Mock regularly appears at various special events that we have. T-Mock attends sporting events as well, social events, etc. So please, if you want to keep up with TMOC and all that TMOC does, follow TMOC on Instagram. And TMOC also, of course, promotes UT Dallas activities and events, services, and resources that you can access to make your stay more comfortable. So once again, if we kind of go back to the culture shock, we were talking about you might get to stage 2, which is the annoyance stage. And so if you're in that stage and you're trying to get some information or some help to get you out of that stage, then following TMOC, he will let you know, TMOC, will let you know what events and resources are available here. And sometimes we might see TMOC on campus, and absolutely you can go up to TMOC and you can take pictures. I personally love TMOC. Every time I see TMOC, I get excited, even though I'm a staff member and the students look at me like, okay, you're a staff member. Why are you getting excited over TMOC? But I do. I think TMOC is really fun, and TMOC will usually take a picture with you. So so follow TMOC on Instagram at official_TMOC and keep up with all the activities. Next slide, please.
So Tamara talked about TMOC and UTD traditions, and I'm going to go over something that we do on campus to show a school pride and how much we love being comets, and it's called the whoosh. So it's typical, like how you have a comet flying in the air and it has that whoosh sound. So we're comets and we do the whoosh. So how to do this is you will take your right arm, fold it like that over your mouth, hand up, and just whoosh. Do a little dab. Okay, come on, everyone. A little bit together. So right hand to your mouth, left hand up, and then just whoosh. We also have a mini whoosh. We also have a little version of the whoosh, and you just typically do it with your hand. So you can do it with your, oh, sorry, camera's facing that way. So you can do it with your right hand, and you just, it's like a little okay, and then just tilt it, and that's your whoosh. All right, so next slide, please. I'd also like to go through a little bit of the university structure here at UTD. So in the United States, universities are very decentralized. We have very many different offices that support students on different platforms. For instance, the admissions office is in charge of admissions, and the International Student Services Office is in charge of all your immigration documentations, and intercultural programs is in charge of all your events and orientations. So this isn't like make your life harder where you have to go to different offices to get things done. But it's mostly because each office is so concentrated on what it does, and everyone is so knowledgeable in what they concentrate on that they'll be able to give you the most amount of help. Because we understand there's so many different life as a student, and you need very different support, and each office is there to support you and to make sure that you're able to get the best information that's up to date and everything, and your life here is able to be easier. So if you go to the bursar's office asking for your I-20 to get signed, they're not going to know what to do, but they will be able to direct you to the right office. So this may be a little different from your home country, where you have one big office that deals with a lot of different things. But at UTD, we've got the many offices that are very well specialized in everything that they do. US higher education is also a lot more flexible than a lot of other countries. So in the United States, you're able to choose your own major, and you can also change your major. But just make sure that before you change your major, you talk to your academic advisor and your international student advisor, just to make sure you're in good standing with the school. Furthermore, you'll also be able to choose what courses you want to take in each semester, and you're able to plan out your schedule. And this might not be the case in your home country, where you have a set number of classes that you have to take and you have to take them in a particular order. You do have a little bit of flexibility here. So there is a lot of responsibility that comes along with a student at UTD. Excuse me. Just remember, for every single change that you make, you talk to all the right people, your academic advisors, your international student advisor, just to make sure you're not making a decision that's going to affect you adversely, and like make sure that you're still in status and you're on the right course for graduation. Because at the end of the day, we want a degree. So something else that might be different for you is that each professor creates their own content, assignments, and exams for their classes. So I may be taking the same class with a friend of mine, but we have different professors and we'll have totally different content. Now, this doesn't mean that you don't get the same information. It's just that how your classes are arranged, how the professor chooses to approach the content that they're teaching is very different. And that's what works best for that professor. So you just have to be very accommodating if your friend is on a different chapter, or there's some that professors are just not going to go over. Furthermore, different professors have different rules for their classes. So you may be in one class where the professor lets you eat in class or lets you record the class for future reference. Well, another professor is not going to be okay with that. So early on, like before you get into the classes in the semester, be sure to ask your professor what they're comfortable with and what they allow in their classes, just to make sure that you don't make the wrong impression in the class. Next slide, please. So, some tips on how to succeed in universities here. My biggest tip would be read the syllabus. So basically, the syllabus is a document that the professor gives you at the beginning of the semester, and it has all your course due dates, your project due dates, and all the important material that you have. So make sure you note everything down, because some professors are not going to you within the semester. Be sure that you have the syllabus either virtually. Some professors will have it uploaded on your e-learning platform, so have it on your computer, and make sure you have all the dates added to your calendar so you never miss a deadline, because we all know it's very important. Each assignment matters here. So if you miss an assignment, that could greatly affect your grade. Furthermore, class participation is very, very, very important, and it might be a big part of your grade in the class. So be sure to contribute, ask questions, and just take part in the things that are happening. And there are chances that whatever question you have, another student in class, and they may be a little shy. So if you're comfortable asking questions, be sure to participate. It'll also help you get to know the people in class, because you get to talk to people and they get to notice, oh, this person is here. And you're also able to build a really good relationship with your professor, because they do get to notice you in class when you do participate and ask questions. So I know this may feel a little strange, because for a lot of us, we'll be having our classes virtually, whether or not we're on campus. So you can still participate even if you're having virtual classes. So you can still have conversations through WebEx or e-learning, or even emailing your professor. Like, they're all here for us. And for the live classes, you're able to even talk to your classmates. So join all the groups so that may be created to help support you in the classes. Like if there's a group meet for the class, be sure to join it and talk to your students, your fellow students, and just get to know people. That's how you'll get to make friends and be on top of everything that's going on. I personally can admit that there have been a lot of like things that are happening in class. So like an assignment due been moved and I hadn't seen like the announcement being made, but I saw it on GroupMe and I knew that I had to do this assignment at a particular time or groups were being made. So just make sure that you're in contact with your professor and your teachers from wherever you are. It may feel different, but you still have an advantage where you can still communicate with them. And ultimately, it's your responsibility to make sure you're on top of your classwork. You have to hold yourself accountable for your test assignments and other items. And this is even much more the case when we're having virtual classes because you're at home, you're not asked for the professor to mention, hey, we have an assignment that's due tomorrow. So you have to make sure you are on top of your game, you keep those grades up, and at the end of the day, have fun doing it. Interact with people and get to know people from different walks of life in different countries and just have the best experience. Make the most out of what you have now. All right, thank you. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much, Flower, for really going into that information. I think it's so helpful for students to hear from another student so they can feel like the information that is being shared to them is real and relatable. Now, before I forget, I really want to mention a point. So, Leticia, could you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so I just wanted to mention some upcoming live sessions that we have. So if this is your, because once again, the orientation sessions, they are not mandatory, but they're absolutely helpful to you in understanding what environment you are coming into and what to expect. We talked so much about culture shock, right? And having information actually helps us can process that culture shock a little bit more. So we absolutely want to invite you to attend some of our upcoming events. We have some posted that are on the screen related to orientation. So on August the 11th, we're going to have the Indian Student Association with us, and we're also going to have FACS with us, which is a Chinese student organization, and August the 13th. We will have the UTD Big Howdy team. And I'm telling you, you cannot miss these sessions. You're going to get so much from them. All of these organizations have so many resources for students. It is amazing. So please make sure that you keep getting information so that you can stay tuned with everything that is happening here, because sometimes when you're studying virtually, you can feel a bit disconnected, right? You can feel like, well, I don't know, they're so far away. But the truth is, honestly, with virtual learning, and since a lot of our events and programming will be virtual, you will not be disconnected. You will absolutely be in the loop. You will absolutely know everything that is going on. So please make sure to get this information. I also do want to advertise some other upcoming events that are not on the screen. For those of you who do not know, our office has a support group for spouse and family members. So you are able to physically be here in the United States, you can get to meet our wonderful community partner whose name is Mandy, and she will welcome you and she'll show you everything about Dallas and how to live in Dallas and what resources are available if you are bringing children here with you. So we do have a group. I highly recommend to check them out. They're on Facebook. If you search for UTD International Spouse and Family Group, they have more information to help you how to adjust to life here in the United States. So how to adjust to life here with you, and if you have a partner and if you have children, because if you bring your partners and children, right, they are also going to need to know how to adjust to life here in the United States. And for those of you who do not know, we do frequently host events on Instagram. So if you are not following us, I highly recommend that you do. Our information is UTD ICP. So that is our username, UTD ICP. So please follow us on Instagram so you can keep up with all the events that we are doing. Some other notable events we have coming up. We have an iFriend program that we run where international students are paired with domestic students and they're able to form friendships here, right? And that will absolutely help with your adjustment in to the American culture, because if you have a friend, you can ask them those questions that maybe you're shy to ask, your classmate or your roommate, etc. So please, we will have information once again. If you follow us on our social media, we will have all this information as to when registration opens for everything. We also have some upcoming events. For example, we'll be sharing with a cultural organization talking about learning more about their culture and them telling us about the cities that are in their culture. We'll also be talking with an office that's called Comet Sense, and they'll be talking to us about student loans. And as we know, as students, right, or as students, finances are very, very important. And even if you think you don't have a lot of money, whatever you do have, you absolutely want to know how to manage. So as I said, this might be a lot of information. You can't remember all of it. I don't expect you to, but what would be really helpful is if you were to connect with us on social media so that you can be aware of everything. Because as I said, even though you are studying virtually, or if you are studying virtually or remotely, you can absolutely still be in the loop with everything that is happening. Okay, so I just really want to thank everyone that was a part of this presentation. And for those of you who do have comments for us, the comment section is open. So please go ahead and post your comments in the chat box that is located to your top right corner. It has two chat boxes and a question mark there. So I'll wait for us to get some questions in there. But I'd just like to go ahead and mention all the members that have been a part of this presentation. My name is Tamara West. I'm a program coordinator. We also have Flower Mwangi here with us. She's our international peer advocate. And we also have off camera helping us run the show, Katie Russo, our assistant director, and Leticia Zamaripa, our program director. So let us know what questions you have for us. We are here to help you. Our office is here to help, even if the question that you ask is not something for our office directly, but we can absolutely point you to the direction of where it is that you need to go. So let us see, do we have any questions in the comment section? Not as yet, not as yet. Okay, so we don't have any questions as yet, but I know you all have questions. I absolutely know that you do, because this was a lot of information. So please let us know, as I said, even if the question is not directly for us, maybe you have a question about payment of things or anything, let us know, and we can direct you to the office that can help answer that question for you.
While we wait for a question, I'm going to ask you guys a question. This is Katie, the assistant director. Okay, I know that Flower and Tamara, both of you, are not originally from the United States. Did you ever make a mistake, or maybe think you did something embarrassing that you now realize is just kind of funny, and maybe when you're just trying to adjust to the United States? Like, did you say something wrong ever?
Okay, yes, so I can go ahead and go first. The truth is, Katie, I probably said too many things wrong, but it's a learning process. I don't even want to say too many things, because even the things that I said that were wrong, in the end, I actually learned from them. So for me, and I tell students this a lot, before you come to America, you know so much and you know everything about America. And then you come to America and you don't know everything about America, right? So when you are outside of a place, it can seem like, oh, I know everything, I don't have any questions, I don't need any help. But then when you get here, you realize how much help you need. And for me in particular, I'm from Jamaica and we are an English speaking country. And so for me, I thought, well, I speak English, so Americans, a lot of Americans speak English, so I should be able to, just understand everything that is happening. But what I didn't plan for was the fact that, I learned kind of more of British grammar, British English. And, I also have my Jamaican culture. So coming into America, coming into Texas, not knowing certain things and phrases that were used. So, for example, I was my very first job that I came here. I worked at a hotel, and so I saw a customer. He was standing, and he was like waiting to be helped. So I went up to him and I said, "Are you getting through?" And he looked at me and he said, "Through what?" And it was so, I mean, it sounds, I don't know, maybe to other people it sounds so simple, but to me, my mind was blown. If y'all have seen the meme of like a mind blown, my mind was blown because I was just like, how does this person not understand getting through? And then I realized it was me. It was me, the phrasing that I was using that caused the breakdown in communication. And then, I rephrased it. I said, are you getting help or do you need help? And then he was like, oh yeah, no, actually I do need help. So, so just even the way that you say things, your choice of words, can really influence the experience that you have and can also, either keep you in that phase two, that annoyance phase. Because if you're used to being a communicator, if you're used to communicating very easily, and then nobody seems to understand what you're saying, or people are struggling with what you are saying, with your accent, with how fast you speak, then yeah, that can get you a little annoyed, right? But once you are patient, and to be honest with you, I wish I knew about culture shock at that time. I think maybe that would have helped me overcome certain things. But yeah, communication was a big part of kind of my experience. I don't know, Flower, can you tell us about your experience?
I'd have to second you. Like, moving from British English to American English was such a big struggle for me. And I feel like it still is even today, where there's some things that I'll write out, especially typing things out. Writing papers was so difficult because I'd use my British English spelling and then I'd have this red marks and I'm like, I know how to spell. I promise you, I know how to spell. But like for tire, like with the IRE and the YRE, I was so stuck on the Y. And then I'd get here, I'm like, do I really not know how to spell tire? Like this is this is a problem for me. So it was a big adjustment. Like even like in my speech, there's certain words like don't call the back of my car the trunk. I'd call it boot. And people would be like, what do you mean boot? And I'm like, I'm forgetting. I'm in America. My apologies. The trunk of your car or the bonnet instead of the front of the car. I'm like, okay. It's it's an interesting adjustment. Like for me and my friends, they always make fun of me. They're like, you and your British English, and I'm like, y'all, this American English is a struggle at times. But I don't know. I guess you just meet the right crowds and you laugh about it because it's like they're both correct. It's just that we're from different sides of the world. And I think another big thing that I did have to face was how you refer to people here. Like most people don't go by titles. They'll typically go by their first name or last name. So that was a big adjustment on my part. Like I think I've told you this word, like you would come to work and Tamara just told me, okay, I'm Tamara West. I'm like, do I call you Miss West? Like, how do I refer to you? You're my boss. Like, so it was a very big adjustment, but I guess you just come to learn and you become more comfortable asking people like what title they prefer to go by or just what they prefer to go by. just to be safe, because you never really know. It's a very progressive world, and you always want to respect everyone and just make everyone feel as comfortable as possible. So asking questions, that's been a big learning curve for me. Just always ask questions.
That is absolutely true. And, sometimes I know some people can be shy about connecting with, foreigners or people from other groups that they're not familiar with. And honestly, that is like one of the missions of our office, intercultural programs, is to provide the opportunities for you to interact with others that you are not familiar with. The UT Dallas campus has so many student organizations. I think there are over 200 student organizations at least that are here. So many opportunities to connect with individuals based on interests and hobbies. Because we do have cultural organizations that are here, and so their main purpose is to kind of, they gather and they fellowship and they talk about topics that are related to culture. But there's some individuals that come in and they're like, I don't necessarily just want to talk about culture all the time. Or even if they are a part of a cultural organization, then they also want to have something, an organization that is based on like an interest or based on a hobby. And so, I just implore anyone who is listening. We have so many student organizations here that you can join, that you can, have membership to. And but I would absolutely say the cultural organizations, they can be your support. There will be other members that are, from your country or from your region, and they can support you. And I know how crucial it was, because when I first came here to the United States, I was just looking for Jamaicans everywhere. I was lifting up under a rock. I was looking everywhere to see if I could find a Jamaican, because that is where I wanted to be. That is who I thought would understand me. And then, as I spent more time here, as I attended more social events, get to know my coworkers, put myself out there, it really helped me to adjust, because the truth is, it's good to keep company, of my fellow countrymen and women. But if I'm going to live here and live in America, I really do have to understand American culture. And so for me, I really had to push myself and say, you can't stay in this little safety bubble that you want to stay in. And that's why I said earlier that studying virtually, will not necessarily make you immune from culture shock, because culture is not restricted to face-to-face and in-person interaction and communication. When you join your classes online, there will be individuals there from multiple cultures. Your professors here at UT Dallas, they're from multiple cultures, multiple countries around the world. The staff members that work here, we are from multiple cultures, multiple countries. So it is inevitable that you will run into someone that is not of your own culture. And so having the information, and having some background to see, okay, where is this person coming from? How can I, talk with them? How can I interact with them? And of course, you can always ask them. As Flower said, asking is the best thing, because each individual is unique unto themselves. But sometimes it is good to have some helpful background information. So I absolutely agree with you, Flower. Asking questions, and putting yourself out there, because you are probably not the only person that has the question that you have in your head. There probably are other people that have the same questions like you, but sometimes we feel shy to ask questions. But if we connect with either student organizations, cultural organizations, and we just reach out, because UT Dallas has so many services and resources that can help us, to adjust to life in Texas, because I'm used to Texas now, but it took a while. I will not lie to you, Flower. I was in Texas for a long time before certain things finally kind of sunk into my head about Texas culture. So it just takes a while. Yeah. One of the things I have to admit that I didn't understand was, sometimes I noticed, Americans an attempt to be polite, and it is polite, you know, in conversation, sometimes they may say, oh, you know, like let's meet up or let's hang out sometimes. I'm telling you, Flower, it took me about 5 to 6 years to realize that when someone say, hey, we should meet up sometime, you know, it's not always. Now, sometimes people do mean that, but sometimes people say that to be polite. You know, just like I remember one of our orientation slides, we talked about just understanding certain ways that Americans speak. Like, you know, if your teacher says, oh, you may want to do that, well, they're actually telling you that you should, right? So it's the same thing. And it took me a long time. People would say that to me, and I was just so confused. But eventually, I understood, you know, what was happening, and I was able to adjust, you know, my emotions whenever I heard that phrase. But that was one that took me a long time.
I totally agree with you. And especially in Texas, like Texans are so friendly and Texans always want to be very welcoming and polite. So there is a lot of things like Texans will say, and you're like, oh, wow. Like it might be strange because at times they might be overly friendly for some of them. I remember like for me, first week in America, I was standing in a Starbucks and this lady comes up to me and she was like commenting on my hair. And I'm like, who are you? Like, you don't randomly get into conversation like, hi. But like you get so used to it and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is just part of the culture. Like people are very open. You will walk down the street and a stranger will smile at you or like say hi to you, and it's not out of the norm. You get used to like just saying hi, how are you doing, good morning, and probably someone you just met walking down the street, never see them ever again, but just that one moment where you're like, okay, hello, just greeting them. You never know, you may make someone's day. It's like, I've had a rough day, let me say hi to a stranger. It might be you. So say hi back and don't be freaked out by people talking to you at Starbucks. It's totally normal. Totally normal.
I've never heard anyone say that. Don't be freaked out by people talking to you at Starbucks. Well, yes, this is true. You're absolutely right, Flower. Well, it's so interesting because our cultures are so different, Flower, because in my culture, it's perfectly normal to go up and talk to a stranger. It's people are involved in other people's business. So for me, so see, and that's why everyone's experience is unique because for me, that wasn't as unique. But actually, for me, it was the opposite. For me, I had to tone down a lot of my interaction. Like I just took it way down, Flower. I took it from like a 10 to a 2 because my culture, we are a bit, yeah, we are in your face, you know, like even things like physically touching people, you know, just like a tap, but I just took it way down because I just thought it was safer to be that way. So there are adjustments that you make, and that is why the cultural orgs really are so great because sometimes, you know, you can miss certain ways and certain things that you're used to doing, and so when you get around other members of your community, then you can maybe, you know, switch, you code switch, right? You kind of switch to kind of the way that you're used to being in a way. And it is an adjustment, but that is life. Like life is a complete adjustment. I think if anything 2020 has taught us is about making adjustments. So yeah, but I would just implore everyone, please, you know, make connections. Don't feel alone, you know, don't feel left out, don't feel like, oh, I'm not sure where to ask. We are here to help you. So if you do want to contact us, I'll go ahead and give our email address if you do have further questions, because I don't think we have any questions coming in to the chat, which is still open. So if you do want to maybe email us, you know, maybe you don't want to post a question, you know, on the chat area, I absolutely understand that. But please email us. We can be contacted at icprograms@utdallas.edu. If you have any questions whatsoever, or if you have any comments, you know, let us know as well. But I think since we don't have any questions and we have gone over the information, I guess the information was just so well explained that there are no questions. But please, as you see on the screen, please attend our upcoming live sessions. We want you to be informed. We want you to be involved. You are a Comet, and so you are welcome to all of these events. Yeah, and if you have any questions whatsoever, comments, please let us know. We'll be happy to hear from you. And once again, we are Intercultural Programs, and our email address is posted in the comment section. If you'd like to visit our website, it's utdallas.edu/ICP. Okay, friends, thank you all so much for joining us today. I hope you continue to have a good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. And we hope to see you at our upcoming events. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.